Go to Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance, and on the bottom of their webpage, their homepage, is 3 PDF links on the very bottom of their homepage. Scrutinize them thoroughly, and then cross-reference what you're going to do. When you listen to this YouTube video, digitally tape it with a digital tape recorder, because I'm about ready to transfer to you some pertinent facts that are literally mentioned in the remote neural monitoring file. And the second PDF link, the behavioral influencing technology, is directly correlated within the remote neural monitoring technology. They work hand in hand together. Trust me. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've been a victim of this crime at least since the late 70s. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Trust me. Listen to this.
That's just some of this stuff that goes on. I mean, it does affect the environment, especially if they're doing the millimeter wave stuff, you know, which is a common delivery system.
What is confusion weaponry, Fred?
Well, confusion weaponry it was basically brought about several years ago, where we were using thoughts to, frequencies that mess up the thinking system of the body. Okay, this was the original, how it really all started. Later on, it got, there were different devices developed that were neurostimulators from a distance. I remember in the very beginning, they were developing devices where they had a control, an implant in your head, and then it was, you would see the effect of it in your head. Later on, it became remote control, and now it's done at a difference, almost on a quantum level. And it's basically impulses that are sent to the body that cause that person to go into some confusion state. A good example of that was just recently. That lady that was on the news the other night, a little blonde girl. You might have seen this about a week ago.
Oh, the one who had they not a stroke, but they think something happened to her. Yeah. She had some kind of severe migraine, they said.
Yeah, and she never ever had a migraine before. That to me is probably they targeted her just to see what it would happen while she was on the air, because there were no symptoms afterwards. There was no damage to her body, no neurological damage or even symptoms. That's confusion weaponry, and that was a good example. I was really surprised to see them pull that out of their hat and immediately, apply that so quickly, but it did. I mean,
that was one of the strangest videos I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, the founder, the term confusion weaponry came originally from Dr. Ross Ade, who was formerly of the Brain Research Center at the University of Southern California, and he worked at Loma Linda, and he worked on the Pandora project, which is part of that stuff that was with the Soviets bombarding us, and it was his definition was specific behavior modifications of electromagnetic means, and the chemical part of it. Now there's chemistry involved here, and that causes what's I call a calcium efflux. Okay, and this is usually from the microwave side of it, and when this calcium efflux happens, it throws out the blood pressure rate, and remember, calcium ions are necessary to make the heart beat through the atriums of the heart. If you interfere with that, you start getting voids in the brain, lack of oxygen in the brain, and so the blood pressure starts to go up or down, and that causes a panic attack. So you can see how that goes into a panic attack. And if it goes into a panic attack, then that person's going to run down. If it happens more than once, then they're going to run to Big Pharma for some drugs, some SSRI drugs or something, which brings the drug industry on board. But I mean, that's the kind of stuff that goes on. And this was going back. This goes back to the 60s. Okay, and then in the 80s, Dr. Ade demonstrated how 147 megahertz field with a power level of just 0.8 milliwatts per square centimeter causes this calcium influx. And then what happens is they used 147 megahertz carrier, and they modulate it down to 6 to 20 hertz, which is ELF. And the heart likes to beat, I think the heart beats somewhere around 8.1 or 8.2 hertz. So, and it's very easy to overpower, the human body only generates about 20 millivolts, the average person in the brain, sending it down through the central nervous system, which then has to be distributed through all the electrical factions of the body, which is everything. So it doesn't take much with a small millimeter beam to interfere with that delicate process of the human being. And because when you go to that millimeter wavelength stuff, which is considered between 30 and 300 gigahertz, that makes it pencil beam like laser-like technology that once a person's zeroed in on from all of these things we've been discussing about voice and speech patterns and you know, listening to them on the computer and the phone and all of that, it's no problem to zero in with 2 pencil beams on that person and do all kinds of disruptive things, including introduce a audio component between the 2 small millimeter wavelength beams, which has an audio component. People then hear themselves, if somebody's talking in their head. And some of the people I've talked to say that, you know, one lady specific I remember, she says, I could hear it was in the control room. I mean, I could hear people in the background talking and these voices are in my head. And this is very unusual. And then this is the kind of stuff that we run across. And not just one case, a lot. You know, if it was just one, I'd shine it on.
Whatever happened to the weaponry of the audio weaponry, where they could turn it on and people would just go down to their knees? It would hurt them, their ears.
Well, that's very much alive right now. They use it on crowd control. That's considered the friendlier form of you know, crowd control.
I mean, I haven't seen it used in the Middle East, so they don't have it, right?
Well, they make it right down here in San Diego, so one of the companies does. Yes, they will.
Well, I mean, we have it. I don't think.
Oh, yeah.
What does that tell you? They make it right here in San Diego. My name is Leslie Williams. When I was out here, when I was married, in 1983, I was out here as a military wife. You would not believe the neural manipulation that I was subjected to. Now, I've already stated in previous videos of mine that my ex-husband was a deliberate and intentional intimate infiltration that was set up between the organized crime syndicate that my parents are connected to, in which I did not talk to my parents from 1986 to 2004, okay? I only talked to them about not even more than 7 times, and at least 5 of those times were only by telephone, okay? Because of an extreme abuse that I put up with before I finally moved out of the house for good and then got married. But it was a direct, intimate infiltration that was set up between his family and his family friends and my family members, and I had no idea. Understand this and be clear. The microwave auditory effect was first founded through and developed through as a result of an accidental development that transpired from submarine radar. My ex-husband was an E4 or an E5. He was an electronics technician on submarine antennas. I'm in San Diego, California again for the first time since 2006, and I was only out here for between 1 and 37 days in 2006 for the first time since 1984. So how is this crime happening towards me still? It's a nationwide syndicate. My name is Leslie Williams. I strongly suggest you thoroughly pay attention to my videos, especially the older ones and the most recent ones. I'm in San Diego, California. I'm a target of what is known as organized gang stalking, and is remote neural monitoring, remote neural influencing, and remote neural stimulating and electronic harassment used against targets of organized gang stalking. Research it. Also go to YouTube and type in Psychotronics 101, Mind Control 101, UnitedTargetedIndividualsEurope.com, Google and YouTube that phrase, SurveillanceIssues.com. You would not believe what I know. And I make these videos in order to inform, to expose. Thank you.